You are known to train exclusively at your home gym. What do you have in your garage gym?
I got the hoist, Smith machine, half cage. I got the incline, decline bench that goes with that. I got, shoot, maybe close to 1,000 pounds worth of weight, or a little more than that. I got dumbbells all the way to 100 pounds. I have a PowerTech compact leg press. I have I forget the brand of it, but it's a leg extension, leg curl combo. I have a sissy squat. I have a hip thrust. What else do I have? I have a hyperextension that I fold up and put in the closet, so that makes it pretty convenient. And just different handles and things like that. So pretty much everything. I got a low pulley and a high pulley on the cage. So I can do just about anything I want in such a very small space because my home gym is not that big.
And that's the plate loaded leg extension, leg curl, in case someone's wondering. And I think it's is it a Power Tech? No.
No, that leg extension leg curl is a X Mark thickness. That's what it is.
Okay. Anything you're looking to add, by the way?
I don't have no more space.
Wow.
I actually had to take out, that's another thing I have. I have a rowing machine that I had to take out to put the hip thrust in its place. My rowing machine is actually up here in my office now.
But so if you want to use it, you can technically go
I can still
upstairs.
use it. I would just have to carry some weights up here and
Ah,
yeah, it's a little bit of a hassle. So I just been doing seated cable row
yeah.
or like a chest supported dumbbell row.
The rowing machine. Oh, you could, I'm sure you've thought of this though, but like if you had one of those weight trees in your office, but I guess that's more of an investment you'd have to make, right?
I actually have extra weight trees.
Oh,
I have two weight trees. One of them I don't really use, just sits in the corner. So I could technically, drag it up here and, put a couple plates up here and I can come up here and do rows.
yeah.
Might have to do that now. Maybe I'll do that later today. We'll see. I
Yeah,
haven't used that
yeah.
machine though in a while. Like since I got that hip thrust, I just haven't used it. I've
Right.
been really gravitated towards the chest supported dumbbell rowing. It just feels so comfortable. You cannot cheat at all on there, and it's just got a very natural path to it. So I've been really enjoying that one as of late.
That's one of the main benefits I think the dumbbells offer a lot of people is just the freedom to move in a path that feels most comfortable
Yeah.
for the body, right? Just for whatever joints you're moving. So whether it's the pressing or the rowing, like you mentioned, like how many, I don't know your experience with this, but even like pressing machines, that's almost a nightmare for me. Like just because the
Mhm.
fixed path of motion and then the handles, because a lot of them, if they're straight, you can't angle like in a way that maybe feels comfortable. And then your shoulders here, but your wrists are, yeah,
Yeah. It's almost
yeah.
opposite for me because of my right shoulder. I
Mm,
don't know if you remember, we talked about this maybe last time. Like my right shoulder still bugs me.
mm,
There's probably something there that I probably need to really look into. But dumbbells, it's a little bit tougher, especially with pressing, because I have to
um,
stabilize.
that's the
You
con.
have
That's
you
the
kind of
con.
yeah, you have
Yeah,
to stabilize a dumbbell, whereas a machine, it's you kind of don't have to stabilize it as much.
for
Like you said,
sure.
the fixed position can be a little tricky, but sometimes you can maneuver your shoulder, your elbow around to kind of find a good path. I've been doing like chest flies and it's okay, but I can't allow my arm to fly out to a certain extent. I got to keep it fairly like more closer to my body because of that shoulder. So it's a
Right.
little bit challenging working around that, but I'm getting the job done. Accepting the fact that, again, north of 50, my body's not going to be 100% all the time. I'm always
Right.
going to have some little niggle here and there.
Well, you're still doing it. That I think is so important for people to latch onto because if you're gonna pick up an ache here or a pain here, and every time you do, you just stop completely. And I
It
bet
was
you there's
still,
a
I mean,
lot.
it's not a debilitating pain though, where it's like, oh man, that's like, okay, that's an injury. It's more just like an aching
Right.
feeling. Yeah. Then you just work
Yeah.
around it. And what's the alternative if you don't train?
It's not going to heal itself. It usually, like you've tried that, right? Like you've tried rest, and it's not like that made it all that much better.
No,
Or am I wrong on
it's
that?
been about the same. I mean, it ebbs and flows. Like there's some moments where it feels a lot better, and there's other moments where
Hmm.
it doesn't. Kind of just depends. Like usually the way I feel it is more like volume thing.
Ah,
If the frequency is a little higher and if I'm doing more volume, of course the load too, like if the load gets way out in front of me, then yes, but it's more so like just the volume and the frequency kind of flares it up, which kind of makes sense because I'm not getting as much recovery.
yeah. You were mentioning this. Are you still doing like some of the exercises, like for example, Nick Licamelli? Mhm. Are you still implementing some of those exercises? Were
Oh,
they
the
helpful?
principles that he's taught me, yeah, I
Mm,
use those pretty much every day. Yeah, because
yeah.
once you kind of learn the principles of things, you're like, okay, you start to use it and you auto-regulate. It's kind of how my training is nowadays. It's a lot more auto-regulation than it is like everything's, said proactive and set up and I'm following it to a T. It's like I have some type of structure and game plan in mind, but it's always like in the moment, can I still do it? And it's almost like, well, I might have to navigate around things here and there. And that's what
Yeah.
advanced bodybuilding is to me, anyways. It's like you know yourself really well, you know how to navigate things, you know principles really well. So you're not like, oh, you don't see advanced lifters saying, what's the best split? Is it push pull
No.
legs or is it upper lower, right? It's just always people who are new and inexperienced that don't have, the fundamentals in check. You're
Right.
still learning principles. And once you learn principles, you don't ask those questions anymore. You know how to navigate.
For sure. And also, I don't know about you, but I can appreciate the problem solving of like when I pick up a little thing here or there and having to work around it. And oh, okay, that doesn't feel good, but that feels good. Like that is
Yeah.
quite enjoyable to me, but I don't know if you feel the same way.
I do feel that way. I feel like I said earlier, it's like I'm kind of learning how to navigate now with the older body. It's a challenge. It's like, okay, can I still make it to the stage? Can I make it to be an elite level natural bodybuilder still with an older body? That was part of like the motivation, you can say part of it with my 23 prep. Like, can I get a top 5 place here at Worlds still at 52? And I proved myself right. I'm like, okay, cool. I made that happen. Now the question is, can I do it the next time when I'm 54 and a half? That's an even bigger challenge. So it's a little bit of motivation, a little fuel. It's not like the primary driver, but it's a little fuel there to keep me pushing.
Yeah. Have you seen less aches and pains on joints with a larger time under load reps? Oh, I guess more time under tension is what he's
Like
asking.
probably slowing rep
Slowing.
speed down, I'm assuming, because the loads will be there for lighter. And because now it's like on one side you're lightening the loads going, well, it's less stress on the joints. But then if you're spending more time, now all of a sudden your set goes from let's say 30 seconds, now it's a minute. So you're doubling your time under a load, even though it's lighter. Is it going to have an impact on your joints? I guess it depends on maybe on the exercise, depends on the person. Personally, what my experience has been, it definitely feels a little easier on my connective tissue if I'm using lighter loads. Now I can't say if 2 years from now I'm like, well, man, these lighter loads and these longer sets, it's really killing me now. Like I have no way to know that. But in the moment, like it definitely feels a lot easier on my joints. Think of like a dumbbell press for chest, like, doing 100 versus 70. Like 70 is going to feel easier on your joints, even if the set extends out a little bit longer.
Right.
That's the way I kind of see it. I've been doing, I don't know if you've seen Alberto do these, but he does like the chest fly and then he goes straight
Yeah.
into a dumbbell press. I've been doing those like the last 3, 4 months consistently, week in and week out. And the sets usually last anywhere between a minute and 30 to 2 minutes. Like they're long sets because you do
Hmm.
the fly. I get it like anywhere between 10 to 12 reps on the fly, go to failure, and the rep speed's fairly slow. I'm pretty controlled. And then I turn that into a press. It's interesting because the press after that fly feels light and heavy at the same time. At the bottom, it's light because your shoulders and your triceps are still pretty strong. But then once you get about halfway up with it, your chest is like screaming, like, what are you doing to me? So literally in the past, I would do anywhere between 80 to 90 pound dumbbells for chest pressing. And now it's like I'm using 50, 55 pounds after doing those flies. And that's all it takes. I'm done. So my shoulders are appreciating the fact that I'm only lifting 50 versus 80 to 100 or 80 to 90.
That's a traditional pre-exhaust as well. Like you're not resting between the sets, or are you resting?
No, now fly all the way to failure,
Yeah.
then immediately spin the dumbbells into a press and go right into a press. That's why the
Okay.
set takes like a minute and 30 to 2 minutes in total.
Personally, I have found that that is the main benefit of a pre-exhaust. Like all that other stuff that was preached about hypertrophy and all that, I think it's more so the fact that it can be beneficial in circumstances like yours. Not for
Yeah,
everybody, but for you.
I do the same thing like with like my leg press. Like if
Mhm.
I just do straight leg press, let's say I do that first. I've gone the machine tops out at 700 pounds. Like I've done 700 pounds for sets of 8 to 10. And then
Right.
my hips are like, what are you doing? Like I do that for 2 or 3 months, my hips will start to ache. So doing leg extensions first, like do 2 or 3 sets of that to failure, and then not immediately go to the leg press, but get some rest. Then I go to the leg press second. Now all of a sudden I'm doing like 500 pounds
Right.
instead of 700. 500 is still a lot, but you remove 200 pounds off of that, and my hips are like on their knees going, thank you so
Yeah.
much for not busting me up. And I'm still going to task failure. It's still hard. So it's still getting a stimulus. I'm not one of those guys that go, well, do I get more with 500, a little slower rep speeds, or do I go 700 and it's faster? Like, I don't really trip on that stuff as long as I'm going to task failure.
And it's
Opposed
relative,
to
right? If the trend is going upwards as far as progression, even though you're
baseline,
doing,
right?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And you could go a step further and throw the leg curls in too before the leg press. So it's like leg extension, leg curl. That might be the next step for you, Jeff.
Let me try. I'll test it out.
It could be fun. I tried that actually.
Trial and error, right?
Yeah, yeah,
See, I'm not an old dog. I'm not stuck in my ways.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
try things still.
I know you're way past this, but when I was in the whole mentor phase, I was like, no, it has to be leg extensions only. But then I'm like, well, what if I just do the leg curls too before? That might feel really nice because you get both sides of the joint, of the
Yeah, warmed
knee,
up. Yeah.
nice and warm. And I was
I've heard
like,
other people say that they'll do leg extensions, leg curls prior to those bigger movements. I have a lot
that's
of my athletes doing leg curls prior to like their big hinging patterns. So pre-fatigue the hamstrings first.
right.
Because usually, like for me, like when I do an RDL first, and then I do a leg curl after that, it's almost like my hamstrings are so trashed. Like the leg curl, like I don't get as much out of it. But
Mm,
if I put leg curl first, I get more load on it and I'm able to do more reps. When I go to the RDL, it's almost like it's not negatively impacting that at all. I can still lift heavy, I can still get the reps. So I
that
found that
makes
to be a
sense.
kind of a
I
nice
can relate to that.
the exercise order is kind of nice like that.
Yeah, for sure. Have you done the pec deck with the press as well, or you tried that, didn't have
I
the
haven't
same
tried
benefit?
that personally, but I can
Mm.
see that would probably be very similar. Yeah.
A little bit of rest by the time you make your way over from the actually you're in the
Well,
home
for
gym,
me,
so
no.
it's
Yeah, it would be like
yeah,
that's literally like 3 feet. Like
yeah,
they give
you're
you like
you're
10-second rest
exactly
tops. Yeah.
exactly.
I remember meeting the guys at 3D Muscle Journey, and they're like, "What do you take?" I'm like, "Nothing." They're like, "What do you mean? Not even creatine?" I'm like, "No." Personally, I don't ever notice anything when I take it from
Mm.
a performance standpoint. I do look a little fuller once I start taking it. Like I got a little more pop in my physique. Maybe gained 2 or 3 pounds, but it's